Hi folks, Lynn Abrams here from Straight Razor Place. Today we're going to talk about Norton hones, and we're actually going to hone a couple of razors just on the Norton from start to finish. And I'll be using this Norton, which as you can tell is pretty well used already, but still has a lot of life in it. When you get a new Norton, they typically come in a blue box like this, and as you can tell, there's a lot more stone than the one that I've used quite a bit here. So you can get quite a bit of wear off of them. I can get usually 2,500 to 3,000 razors on a given Norton. When they come new like this though, the 4,000 side is typically very grainy feeling, and lately I've noticed that even the 8,000 side is pretty grainy feeling. I'll probably do another video to show you some lapping, but basically this graininess on the new stones needs to be lapped down until it has a very, very smooth feeling. That will normally take about 1/8 of an inch off of the 4,000 side, and maybe just 3 to 5 minutes on the 8,000 side to get past that grainy feeling. So here we go. I'll show you next how I soak my stones, and then we'll go right into the honing. This is my washroom where typically I do most of the cleaning and lapping of my stones. As you can tell, I keep a few of them on hand all the time, and the picture that you see off to the right here that I'll zoom in on is just a regular water pitcher, and it's filled with distilled water. The water where I live is very harsh, and call it more superstition than anything else. Typically I'll fill that pitcher up with new distilled water every 2 or 3 days, and just keep the stone soaking for about 15 minutes before I use it. When I'm done with the stone, I'll bring it right back in here to the sink, and this is where I'll clean it, and basically it takes care of lapping. It keeps it mostly flat, which is really all I care about, and I'll clean it up and then dry it and put it up on the shelf that you saw on top, and it'll be there for the next day for the next use. Okay, I have had the stone soaking for about 15 minutes, and we're going to get ready to hone a razor. The razor I've chosen is just a red bone handle Bevel, and it's got a little gold wash on the spine. Pretty straightforward and very nice condition. So let's talk a minute about the Norton hones themselves. This Norton 4,000, 8,000 is a really, really versatile hone. If you don't have a 1,000 stone, you actually can set a bevel on the 4,000 side of this. The Nortons have a pretty abrasive quality to them, and so for the most part, when I do the first part of my honing regimen on this with circles, that's reinforcing the setting of the bevel on one. So if I was purely going to set the bevel on this, I would try to do 2 or 3 rotations of the circles, and I'll show you what that rotation looks like before I go into the actual honing method that I would use with the circle process. So this same process that I'm going to show you can be used really with a Naniwa 3K, 8K stone, separately with the Naniwa Superstone 5K or 8K. It can be used with the Shapton glass stones, the 4K stone and the 8K stone, or the 4K and 8K carbons. And so that combination is pretty versatile, and you actually can shave off of the 8K side if you don't want to go into the expense of the finishing stones. And typically the shave will be acceptable, but you certainly, in my opinion, can get a much nicer shave in the long run by using the finishing stones, natural stones, with or without paste following them. So you know, that's a personal preference thing that you would develop as you learn to hone. So as with any of my stones, I have a spray bottle here of water, and I'm just going to simply spray the top as I've been talking, quit drinking just a touch. But when you soak them for 10 or 15 minutes, the stone is definitely wet enough to use. So from purely a bevel setting standpoint on the Norton, What I do is 2 sets of 20 or 40 circles with the edge to me. I do the small circles in a counterclockwise motion. With the edge away from me, I use a clockwise motion. Okay, and I'll do 40 circles on both sides, and I'll follow that up with 10 to 15 X strokes, and that'll look sort of like this. Flip it over and do 40 more. Now, typically I'll cant the blade heel forward just a little bit because this blade has a shoulder on it, as you can see. And what that does is it keeps me from wearing into the shoulder itself and actually keeping that shoulder off the blade by having the heel forward. The other thing that I look for when I do the circles on these is to make sure that that blade is perfectly flat, so I'll follow the water displacement. It doesn't take long to build up a little swarf, which is just some metal particles coming off on the stone. Okay, and so the 40 circles both ways, I'll follow up with just simply (10 to 15) X strokes. And they don't have to be perfect X's. The main thing is just to keep the razor flat on the stone. A small degree of X pattern will give you the angled striations in the blade. And again, you really want to watch and make sure that the water displacement follows the edge of that blade and is very clear all the way across, and you're not lifting or changing the angle of that blade at all, because that's what will give you uneven wear across the spine. And from a bevel setting standpoint, that's the routine that I would use even on this stone. And for me, I use a thumb pad test, and what I'm trying to do is I want it to feel pocket knife sharp, and I really want it to grab the callus of my thumb and not want to let go. So for purposes of this being a 4,000 stone versus a 1,000 stone, I might have to do this a couple of times in order to get that bevel set, but typically on a razor in good condition, once or twice would be all it would take. And that would be, what I would consider a bevel set on the 4,000 stone. So if we're going to take a razor that's in good condition and hone it on the 4,000 and 8,000 stone, I'm going to use the circle process again. So if you didn't notice, when I do the circles on the bevel setting process, I am using a firm amount of pressure on it. Okay, so now when I go to the actual honing process, so if I didn't show you how to do the bevel at this point, I would pick up a razor in good shape, and I've got my 4,000, 8,000 stone, and I would go ahead and do the circle process to hone it. Now, the circle process is one that I developed maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and have been using because it's really consistent. And with the stones that I mentioned, the process itself, it is very, very straightforward, but it's very repeatable. And so there are other ways to do it, and we'll experiment with those, and I'll show you on another video how to do the pyramid and how to do just the straight X-stroke progressions, and we'll go from there. But for purposes of this video, we're just going to take a razor in good shape. If you tape, obviously you can take a little 3M tape and tape the spine if you want. The gold wash on this is across the top, and I'm not as concerned. There's not much wear on the side of the spine itself, so we should be okay without taping. Typically I do not tape. So for the regular circle progression and honing on the Norton 4000, 8000, what I'm going to do is start off with my 40 circles, and I'm going to use a firm amount of pressure. So we'll do those going both ways. Okay, now once I've done that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the exact same 40 circles. And with this set of 40 circles, I'm going to use absolutely no pressure at all. So from this part of my honing process on, I won't use any pressure at all other than the weight of the blade. So my grip has changed and my elbow will stay a little bit higher because I really want to maintain that flatness, and I really just want to balance the blade as I put it through the circles and the X strokes. So after the 40 circles going both ways firm pressure, I'll now do 40 circles both ways with virtually no pressure. Okay, and as you saw, no pressure, but I'm still watching to make sure that the water displacement and the line across that edge is perfectly flat as I do those circles. And so I do this kind of as a transition, going from what I consider more of a honing into more of a polishing progression. And so that's why the light circles following the heavy circles have worked so well. And so when I'm done with that on the 4K, what I'll do is I'll just do no pressure, but 5 to 10 X strokes, and then I'm done with the 4000 side. And that's it. So that's the 4000 side of the Norton 4K 8K progression. And again, I can pretty much tell we're there on a thumb pad test. A lot of people will actually take the razor and see if it will shave hair at this point, which obviously this one is doing quite nicely. I don't know if you can tell in here, or you can see the bare patch of skin on my forearm there. But that's exactly what you want if you need to do a test on this. I've used this method so much that typically I won't test it until I shave, because I know that the process works so well. So now that we're done with the 4K side, what we'll do is I'll flip it over to the 8000 side. Give it a little spray. And on the 8000 side, all I'm going to do, and typically if I'm using a carbon blade, I'm going to do between 6 and 8 X strokes, no pressure, on the 8000 side. And if I'm using a stainless steel blade, then I'm going to go to between 8 and 10 strokes on the 8K side with no pressure whatsoever, and then I'm done. So this is a carbon blade, no pressure. And we're ready to actually test this blade for shaving. And as we get into the contest that Glenn has going on at Straight Razor Place right now, I'll actually do a shave video using these razors. But for right now, that would be considered a honed blade. That's how simple it is on the 4000, 8000. And if I was doing my everyday progression, I would follow up at this point and then move into a finishing stone, or a natural finishing stone, either the Naniwa 12K or the Shapton Glass 16K, and or on the naturals I would go to an Escher or a Conical, or one of my Japanese stones, maybe an Asagi or maybe a Myozuko or something like that. But this should pretty much be it. And again, it's very straightforward, and that's the circle process. So a test that you could use, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the video, is just to catch the hairs midway on the arm. And I can tell here that the hairs are just falling onto this blade in midair. And so I'm comfortable enough to go ahead and go strop this one off with no paste or anything and try to give it a test shave, and we should be good to go. So if you have any questions, catch me at Straight Razor Place online, and let me know how this is working for you. I'm going to come back and do another video using showing you the pyramid method with the Norton 4000 and 8000, and then we'll do just the X-stroke method following that. Thanks, guys.